Hello, Nari McDiarmid for Mining Magazine, and it's great to be with you for the final instalment in our three-part series with Atomionics. And this time, we're going to take a look at the likely real-world potential with Chief Commercial Officer Mikhail Zeldovich. So, Mikhail, I understand it's early days still, but can you outline how you plan to demonstrate your technology in action?
Sure. I think to take one example of something that we're already in the planning process for, a junior explorer over in Western Australia, where you guys sit, bases some very old drilling data that predated them, finds shows a small, what looks like a small ore body with a very promising metal, good grades, but it's small. But the geologic structure of the area is such that it can't be there alone. There must be half a dozen or a dozen of them, and they're sort of difficult to map unless you spend an enormous amount of money drilling. So what we're doing with them at the moment is he's not telling us where that ore body is. He's giving us a larger chunk of land. If we find it, which I'm pretty sure we will, because just the way the technology works, it's well suited for it. So if we find it, so he knows the tech works, he will then give us the entire exploration concession. And what we do then is we design an actual survey and we find more without him having to spend millions of dollars in drilling. He'll still have to drill a little bit at some point to get to JORC to get to a standard that's bankable, but he's going to spend probably 5 or 6 times less money than he would otherwise. And the way we structure it is that we want to have slice of the ownership of the upside of those, not just get paid in cash, because we want to be in the same boat with the junior explorers, right? We're not a bank, we're not a trader. We actually want a slice of the action of what we found. And I think that's a tremendous real world impact, because not only did someone save a lot of money and a lot of time finding the resources, but I think this also demonstrates to the world that an exploration tech company can actually become a full-fledged, full-stack partner in exploration with some of the junior guys who are having trouble getting any attention or any financing at the moment.
Mikhail, who have you partnered with so far, and how do you get a sense for the industry's trust in Atomionics?
Oh, no, that's a very good question. While I am not allowed to reveal names specifically, we are partnered with two of the world's largest miners internationally. One of them is actually now a shareholder, with the fact it's going to become public fairly soon. So, if the shareholding is certainly a certain kind of gesture of trust. But I would say, I mean, we are being given access to data. We have now have a better understanding of the strategy of some of these major mining companies, because they're telling it to us, which I think is also quite refreshing, because what it looks like from the outside is not always what it actually is. And I think now we have a much clearer understanding of that. But I think the most important thing is, on a couple of upcoming projects, we're being slotted into an exploration process that's very time sensitive, that's also very structured. So, for example, while other exploration techniques are being used, we're being slotted into particular spots. So we know that we're going to do it before X, but after Y, because our data is going to be a part of the analysis as to how to get to the next stage. And I think that reflects a change for me in the industry, because the industry has for so long been so leery of people coming over and offering snake oil, kind of charlatan variety of technology. It is probably the highest barrier to entry in terms of believing that a new startup can help you, of any industry that I've ever seen. The fact that we're now at the point where we are getting projects, we're being fitted into this exploration process, that we're discussing ownership stakes as part as compensation for our work. I think, to me, that reflects that we are at an inflection point with the industry. I think still we need a couple of big, loud, very clear case studies to show the world for us to get over that hump, but we're almost there. I can feel a very different tone than I felt, let's say, 8 or 9 years ago, when I from the mining side looked at such startups.
Now, you mentioned the potential cost savings earlier when you were referring to what you're planning to do with a junior explorer here in Western Australia. But what are some of the other benefits that you'd see, such as reduced risk or improved outcomes for companies?
I think it works differently for different companies. I think if you're a junior explorer that's picking up a portfolio of exploration licenses, um, we should be very quickly and very cheaply tell you what not to bother with. If there is no gravity anomaly, sorry, I'm not going to go any more technical than that, but if there's no gravity anomaly in your concession, you don't have an ore body, you do not have a deposit, because a deposit is an economic term, right? Not the fact that you have certain metal under your feet doesn't mean you have a deposit. It needs to be a certain amount of it and certain grade. Fairly quickly we can tell you don't have it. So don't bother with it, right? And I think not bothering with where there is nothing is probably the single largest time and resource saver that there is at early stage exploration process. Then we can also, as other exploration methods and us proceed, we can start telling you exactly where to drill. So money saved, time saved, but also don't waste your time on projects that have no value, I think is quite key. For the mining majors, I think there's a different proposition here at play, because they usually don't start at grassroots. They usually acquire juniors. We could be a quick second opinion verification tool to see that the junior actually has what they think they have. So I think on the acquisition side, that would be quite important. For a lot of deposits that had been started, I want to say in a hurry, but there's no such thing as a quick mining project, but still, companies do try to get in and start producing fast. They don't always do an entire exploration for the entire concession because they want to start somewhere. We can explore the flanks. We can fill out the future reserve planning for them that they may not be able to do otherwise. So I think the value proposition is different. Then if you ask me how we can do the same for geothermal energy or for oil and gas or for searching for water, I can tell you that as well, because we're applied to many different industries.
Well, finally, Mikhail, if we happen to be instead standing in an elevator with, say, a mining executive or an investor, what would you say to them to compel them to partner with Atomionics?
That's a great question. I think those two would be two very different pitches, just because they would be in that elevator with two very different frames of mind. I mean, I would say today for an investor, it's a simple question of, do you believe that we have enough critical metals for the next 20 years? Yes or no. If they believe that it is, there's no conversation to be had, because I think they're just not looking at the numbers. If they believe that there isn't enough, then you have to ask yourself a question: how are you going to get there? How is the West, or the West in India, or the West and its other partners, going to catch up to China that has almost complete dominance of the sector? And to me, this is like a Sputnik moment, if you would, right, for the US when they were trying to catch up to the Soviet Union in the space race. We're not going to catch up without technology, without a technological leapfrog effect. And so to me, that's the pitch. If you believe that we don't have enough critical metals, if you believe that we need to find deposits faster, we need to exploit them faster, then you need technology. There are a lot of companies in this industry who use AI to help you find deposits. We do that as well. But we alone in this new group of startups helping resource companies actually have a new method of acquisition of data and knowledge from the underground, and then we give it to our AI. That I think makes us a unique proposition. I think for the mining major, I think it was my answer to the previous question is, look, give us an opportunity, we'll save you a ton of time, we'll save you a ton of money. And I think our willingness after we do the survey to trust our own data enough to say, you know what, you don't have to pay us in cash, we want your shares. I think that would be a very powerful statement to say we trust our technology sufficiently. We'll take your shares, which for a junior explorer, chances are, probabilistically, are worth nothing. We're willing to take them as payment. I think that's a fairly strong statement.
Well, Mikhail, thank you so much for sharing your insights today with Mining Magazine. And if this is the first episode that you've discovered, you can find links to our earlier conversations above, where we look into how it came about and the science behind it. Thanks again for your time today.